Hi everyone, welcome back. This is the second week of the Donald Trump administration in the United States. We are in late January 2025, and I have a lot of things to talk about and reflect. And I wanted to use the time to talk about how artists, people who are in creative fields, can join the movement against a lot of the things that are happening around deportation, fear, family separation, against removing the 14th Amendment. And I've been thinking a lot about how, as an artist, can I join efforts against everything that's happening. And I've been having a lot of conversations with people who I work with, friends, family, and I want to talk about some things that may be helpful. And I think this is also time for me to invite other artists to join the conversation on what we can do. Can we join national efforts? One, why am I doing this? I think feel the need to step up, feel the need to do more. And to me, feels wrong to focus a lot on making art that does not address what's happening. And it feels wrong to me to focus on something that it's not helping our people or communities. To me, it feels wrong to start selling prints or start selling paintings or continue selling things that I do as an artist. And I wanted to use my voice as one person, as a person who stands against all the hate, a person who stands against a lot of the things that are happening, but not lose on the hope and beautiful future that I know that we all can achieve. And in today's conversation, I just want to talk about some things that I've been doing. And it's going to be probably many conversations around many things, but I do want to keep it concise. So yesterday, I ended up hosting a virtual workshop on protest signs. And these protest signs are a way for people to talk about what's happening and take visuals to protest to wherever they are, whether they want to hang it in their office or their schools. And I wanted to continue exploring how, as an artist, can I join these movements. This was a workshop that was very much made on the last minute. Last minute meaning 24 hours before I ended up hosting it. And a lot of the things that I learned from having and hosting this space were so insightful. I ended up making this virtual protest sign workshop post on my social media, and a lot of people liked it. A lot of people resonated. Many artists shared and many artists reached out, and I received registrations and people signed up. And it made me feel very happy that there are artists in the country that also are looking for a space like this. I've seen a lot of organizations do protest sign workshops in many cities and in the country. And I definitely want to credit them for starting this. I'm not saying that I'm making this myself, but I wanted to do something as well. And if you know me, a lot of my work has also been focusing on how can, and as an artist, I join my voice into what's happening in today's world in 2025. And even before that, a lot of my work focuses on how can I join efforts nationally? How can I join efforts locally? And I've been able to work with a lot of individuals who value the artist's voice, people who are learning how to incorporate more artist voices into their work. And of course, with the new Trump administration, I wanted to talk about how I'm also responding, how we all can respond and hopefully build up on each other, add to the conversation, continue to host spaces like these where all of us can come and learn. I'm not someone who is saying that I know everything there is to do to stand against hate. But this workshop, like I said, taught me that people are in need of spaces like these, whether they're virtual or in person, and using the arts as a way to make sense, to organize, to stand up, and to raise our voices. I really liked having the conversation yesterday with the people who joined. There was a lot of talk around not just giving people the option of making a protest sign, but also creating resources for people to join and learn and understand what they can do. One of the conversations that we had was around making people aware of their rights. There are these red cards going around that essentially gives people some steps in terms of what they can do if ICE stops them. And you can find them by looking them up, searching red cards. They're available in over 16 languages. And that was a beautiful thing that exists. And the conversation yesterday just led into how can we further expand the resources that we have available? Making graphic designs that are responsive to different age groups, meaning talking about science that young people, children, teenagers, the elderly can relate to. And how can we further create something that it's for them and they can use, and they can have a purpose, how the art can have a purpose, such as including more information. For example, if someone were to be stopped, how can they have access to a phone number that they can call a lawyer? How is this lawyer going to help them? And who are the hotlines that we can call or that they can call if they're stopped, or that we can call if we're stopped? And I think it was a beautiful opportunity for us to brainstorm as, again, creative in a space that all of us can relate to, that all of us can think about. And it showed me some lessons. One, that graphic designers, artists are looking for a space to be integrated into the movement and collaborate with other people. This is an invitation for anyone who would like to consider working with an artist to reach out, or other artists who want to be part of this. I'm not saying this is going to be a national movement, who knows? But I think having workshops like these where people come in and brainstorm and talk freely, talk openly, can be an amazing benefit to all of us. Because like I said, we all can learn from one another. We all can build from one another. We all can communicate. One of the things that I really enjoyed about this workshop yesterday is we had people from 3 sides of the country. We had people from the West Coast. We had people from Central Time and East Coast. And it was so good to see a response where all of us can come together and have one purpose, which is essentially to protect our communities through the arts. How can we use the arts to inform, to educate, and I was able to learn a lot about what other cities, specifically other artists, are doing in other cities to protect their communities, like the examples that I just mentioned. And I think having a space like this was important because not only are we making the efforts to combat this nationally, not working against this individually, but really nationally. It is a national issue. It's not just something from North Carolina and not something from other states. It's really all the country. What can other people teach us about what they're doing so that we can also learn from them, and what can other people learn from us, what we're doing? And I think that's the value in this kind of work. Again, if you would like to join some of these workshops, please stay tuned. You can follow me on social media. I will be announcing them. Again, I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm not trying to tell people to pay. To me, I think it would be wrong for me to pay, to ask for money for people to participate in these events. Join us and be part of this work. And also, if you have any other resources around artivism, artists who are activists or people who are joining the cause, share them in the resources below or in the comments or wherever this is available so that we all can learn from one another. It can be books that are jumping at you right now. It can be poetry. It can be practices that you all have thought about. Any training. I myself have not been into ice watch trainings or anything like that yet, but that's something that I think is important for me to attend. And also, more nationally, more locally, any art organizing events or trainings that you may want to share or you may like to share, let us know as well. I think that's the beauty of being in this kind of space, to find our people and to have one another. I think it's important that we all take care of one another and make sure that we all can rely on one another. I think it's easy to fall into despair and fall into a lot of the things that they want us to feel, but I'm trying to, again, resist that. It's all a calculated plan. I want to still use joy as a resistance. I want to use the arts, storytelling as a resistance tool. I want to use gathering, community, coming together, organizing, using the arts as a resistance. Been reading a lot. I haven't been sharing what I've been reading, but I've been able to really reflect on my practice as an artist. And these things I'm able to talk about because of what I'm learning. I'll be happy to share those resources as well and in other kinds of books. But I think this is more of a question. What are we doing as artists to combat hate, fear, family separation, deportations? What are we doing? What am I doing? That's a question that I am thinking a lot about. I can go on and talk about other things as well. How artists can raise awareness, how artists can think about using art as a tool, and how culture, and specifically art, can influence culture. How art can bring people together, learn from one another, how we can have other people see people like us in spaces where normally we haven't been in, whether it's a gallery, whether it's a place that we all can share our life, our story, our lives of joy, our lives of strength. and to continue combating the negative aspects and the negative portrayals that the media continues to say that people of color are this, that immigrants are that. I think that's the beauty of art, that it can be a counter narrative. It can deny with proof that those portrayals are incorrect and that the artists have so much power. Artists have been at the forefront of many historical movements. Not saying that we have been at the main people leading it, we may have, but we have been voices. Not that we talk about or represent everyone, that we are a voice that represents people. I don't quite agree with that. I can only speak about myself and represent myself and my experience. But I think it's that as artists, we have the power. Artists, we have so much power that people want to remove from us. And I've been learning a lot about how people have been depriving artists from creating. Look at the writers whose books are banned because they carry ideas that go against people who don't like those ideas. The painters, the muralists, whose murals have been defaced because we like to portray people who are there, who have been revolutionaries, who have pushed us through so much throughout history. People who want to erase our visuals, people who want to remove our presence from spaces. And if they're doing everything in their power to remove us from those spaces and from those opportunities, what does that tell me? What does that tell you? That what we're doing is against what they're doing, that we are important, that we need to stand together, that we need to join movements, that we need to stand against the hate, stand against the racism, stand against the spreading of the fear, stand against denying people's humanity, stand against so many things. That's another question that I have as well. How powerful are we that they want to deny us from being in spaces? How powerful are we? How powerful are we for them to deny us to be in those spaces? And I think that those are the questions that I'm working with right now. What are we doing as artists to combat hate? What are we doing? Are we writing to my fellow writers? Are we writing poetry? My fellow poets, what poetry, what books are we writing? What novels are we creating? What stories are we preserving? And this is not limited to just the written word. I understand that the written word has also been used to exclude. How are we promoting oral histories? How are we promoting oral stories back to our indigenous backgrounds and origins? What are we doing? To my fellow teachers who are teaching Spanish, what are we teaching in the curriculum? Are we teaching the students about the power of our communities? Are we teaching the power of art to share stories? What are we teaching our students in Spanish classes? To my fellow grant writers, and I've been thinking a lot about how grant writing can be an activist tool. Now I'm aware of the nonprofit world, how the nonprofit world can perpetuate many of the things that are happening. I'm very aware. But how can the grant writers use the arts to not the arts, but how can the grant writers use fundraising to bring in money to fund movement? Now, there's a book called The Revolution Will Not Be Funded that I can talk more about and tell you more of my interpretation later. But what are we doing as grant writers? And not only grant writers, what is philanthropy doing to combat fear, hate? I read an article the other day about, it was this person on a social media telling us what they believe the federal government would cut back on, meaning they would remove a lot of the funding or some funding for many of the specific causes that philanthropy can support. Not saying that it's an exhaustive list, but I saw how this particular person was talking about less funding for Q communities, less funding for different things. And I kept thinking, all right, the federal government is in a way responding. It's really responding, right, to what's happening, reducing funding. And then my question was to philanthropy, to organizations, what are you all doing to make sure that people have access to the funds to run their organizations? We're just starting 2025. It's January, late January. Trump has been in office this second week. What is going to happen in the next 4 years? How is everyone going to respond? What are the philanthropy professionals going to do? That's a question that I have. I meet with funders in my work as someone who also works in fundraising, someone who works in the intersection between culture and fundraising. I'm not sure if this is a phrase or exists out there already. It's a cultural fundraiser. It's a question that I always have. Where is philanthropy going? What are philanthropy professionals doing to stand against all this? Stand against hate, fear, racism. So that. I'll talk a lot about being a business owner, someone who is an artist. What can business owners do? What can we do to stand against hate, fear? And oppression. What are we doing? And then we bring in economic systems. Can these economic systems save us? These are questions that I've been pondering a lot about. So what can we do? What can I do? Now, use this video to ponder on these questions yourself. Share resources. Tell me what you are doing to stand against hate and fear. Now, I think it can be easy to think we have to do so much. And it might be, maybe that we have to do that. But because a single person cannot do it all, what is within your power to do? What can you do? Whether it's hosting a space, whether it's hosting a book club, whether it's hosting a painting class, whether it's collaborating with an organization that brings in a Know Your Rights workshop, or even complementing that Know Your Rights workshop with a guided painting class or workshop. Whether it's taking photographs in an exhibition that you want to make. How are people responding against hate? The poems that you're writing. How are you holding space for us? How are you holding space for others? And also, how are you taking care of yourself? What are you doing to take care of yourselves? What grants are you writing? Who are you working with? What volunteer opportunities can you participate in? Again, we don't have to do it all, but if all of us do something, we can work together. And I think that I've heard that all my life. It may sound cliche, but it works, y'all. It works. I think that the arts can be a tool to make sense. It can be a tool to understand. It can be a tool to resist. For my arts and wellness people, what are we doing to talk about how we can use the arts as a way to be a refuge, to come together, to take care of one another? What are we doing? How can we continue to advocate for the arts as a way to have so much benefit, so many emotional benefits for making people feel happy? I was reading The Atlantic. They have I have the copy here of the latest publication, and they had an article on how compassion has become a radical idea in today's environment. And I was just thinking, as an artist, a lot of the work that I do is to really build a space of shared humanity, of learning from one another, to understand that arts are a tool to come together, to look beyond our differences, to look beyond what people may think we are different. And yes, we speak different languages, we have different cultural backgrounds, we come from different lived experiences, but then we all are people. Deep down, we're the same. We are the same people. And again, what are we doing? How can the arts promote well-being? How are we promoting dancing? How are we promoting being in nature? How are we spending time where we are close to the trees, where we are close to the mountains, to the rivers, to the plants? How are we taking care of our mother earth? How does that help us feel strong? How does that help us take care of our bodies? How are we nourishing ourselves? So yeah, everything that I've been saying, it's just questions that I have, reflections of things that I'm reading about. I think it's really about, what can I do during this presidency? What can I do as a person? What can I do as an artist, as a professional to do this? Going back to the idea, I was having a conversation with someone and they said, I wish I could do more. Believe me, I also wish I could do more. I wish I could do so many things, talk to more people, do more events. And I think we all can do more. But when it becomes, what I want to say is that we all can do more. But also, doing more does not necessarily mean that we are helping ourselves. Because this work is, it's a lot. It can be exhausting. It can be emotionally taxing. But how are we taking care of ourselves as well? Which is why, going back to how I started the video, decided to make something that other people are doing. Decided to host, protest, sign virtual workshops. It needed some resources. And that led me to think that, with that mentality of, I wish I could do more, we need more things to do more things, right? Going back to the funding, we may need money to pay for childcare. We may need money to pay for canvases and acrylic paint and markers and other things like that. We may need money to pay for having a space to host people, having a space to create, to pay for electricity, to pay for water, to pay for the internet. And I think that's what I want to be more more aware, conscientious about, that doing more will require more. And sometimes we don't have those resources. So just being aware that, although I wish I could do more as well, it's just sometimes not possible. Our resources can be limited. Resources can be finite. It can be anything from time. People may have family. People may have children. People may have parents to take care of. People are still working 9 to 5s. So sometimes doing more when there are these responsibilities, keeping our community safe, that can be more. Create maybe just not optimal to do so many things. And then what are we going to do then if we do so much? So I think this is where my question comes to. A couple of hours here and there, what can we do to join efforts, to volunteer, to tutor? I saw a post on social media about someone who was a former lawyer, someone who was I'm not someone who talks about the law or understands the law because I'm not a lawyer or attorney, but this person used to practice law, and they were thinking maybe bringing their law degree, or not bringing up their law degree, but really talk about practice law again to, what is the word that I'm trying to say? What I'm trying to say is they're not practicing attorneys, but they are trying to consider becoming practicing attorneys again to help people understand and get the help they need. So someone who can guide them in their next legal step, whatever that is. These are the types of questions that I'm thinking. What can we do within our capacity? What can we do within our understanding, within our expertise, to ensure that we all can join? Because the beauty about us is that we have so many awareness, we have so much expertise in so many fields, from the ones that I just mentioned, from the arts to business to psychology to the fundraising. And I'm sure there are other Latinos, Latinx people working in so many other fields. So what are we doing to join efforts? Again, doesn't have to be leading a class. It can begin to share tips how to keep our community safe. Graphic designers, as a graphic designer myself, what are the posts we're making? What are the things that we are creating? How are we telling people these are the things that are at your disposal? For example, when I was able to share the red cards, I think that was a beautiful response in our community because a lot of people responded to that. Now, I'm not taking credit that I made those red cards, but I made a post that people can use those red cards to share and print. I gave them credit. I gave the organization that made it credit. But again, it's something like that. Something that is small, something that was there and other people resonated. If you see a gap, if you see that people are not doing something, that maybe you have a skill, think about what can you do? Of course, if it's your capacity, if you have the time, the energy, and you have the resources. Or even if we don't have the resources, how can we pool resources and say, from like my perspective, I can donate a few hours to teach a workshop. If there is another organization that can do a Know Your Rights, and we can join efforts. I think it's time to continue working. I'm not saying that we have not been working together. We have. I have examples of how we have been working in the past. But just where we are right now, today's environment, today's economy, today's everything, it requires me to step up even more. Continue. Just thinking a lot about, again, what can we do? Um, the books that are available to us in our libraries, what are our options? How are we educating ourselves? How are we learning? How are we able to strengthen our response and not let fear, hate stop us? What are we doing? With book banning, I was just reading another article around the books that are banned. And what are the books that we are reading to understand against, or to understand what's happening, to stand up against the attacks on our communities? If you're a reader, if you have recommendations, share them. If you are a nonfiction, if you're a nonfiction person, share your books. What are the top 5 books that you think people can benefit from in today's world? And maybe the book doesn't talk about that, but maybe your response or how you are reflecting on what they say can further build on what we all can learn from. Nonfiction, for example, I was talking to people also last week and this week, again, how the arts are a tool to help us feel better, reach our humanity, feel happy, feel connected, feel that we have a village around us. And that's based on nonfiction. And those are the books that can help us further understand what people who don't like us want to do against us. That's just an example for my fiction people. What books, what poems do you recommend that we all read? What are books that have changed your life? What are books that you can say, this story right here is a tool to combat hate, isolation, and fear? What authors do you recommend that we learn from? Maybe not just fiction. What magazines? Maybe you like to read magazines. I mentioned The Atlantic. For my Spanish speaking people, especially for my Spanish speaking people right now, I'm thinking about that. You all have had so much, and I say this because I've seen it, with so many book fairs in Latin America, where authors come and talk about their beautiful works, from bookstores with bookshelves filled, complete with literature from Latin America. What books from Latin America can we read that you think are important, that we all can learn from? After visiting Mexico, after visiting Oaxaca, after visiting Mexico City, after visiting Guadalajara, I always have noticed that bookstores have so many books that are not available where I live in the United States. And there are so many authors that don't get to be in our bookshelves for whatever reason. I'm not a librarian or someone who works in libraries. It could be just the international component of sending books, maybe other hidden agendas, it may be censorship, it may be that people may not sell these books to people, or there's not a market, who knows. But whenever I'm in Mexico, in these bookstores, I always see a lot of bookshelves with so many books that talk about psychology, that talk about indigenous ancestry knowledge, that talks about how people have used the art as a resistance tool, how people are using the arts to document their stories. And it's painful that in the United States, from a United States perspective, that I don't have access to those books because I'm not in Mexico. I'm not in Latin America. This is just an example, right? It can be other languages. What are other people in other continents reading? What books are available to you? What books can you share? As a reader, I welcome those titles. And welcome everyone's ideas. What is working for you? What do you think can be something that can be helpful? What are we doing as people? What are we doing as creatives? What are we doing as activists? What are we doing as artists? What are we doing as musicians to stand up against hate? What are we doing as poets? What are we doing as writers? What are we doing as people who do videos like this? What are we doing as people who do podcasts? What are we doing as educators? What are we doing as people who work for nonprofit? What are we doing? What can we do to stand up? I talked a lot. I went through a lot of things. So let me know down below, what can you do? Or what are you thinking that you can do to stand up? Or continue to stand up? Because also, I don't want to make an assumption that we have not been standing up. What books do you recommend? What poems do you recommend reading? What bookstores can we check out? Is there a artist working group that you think can benefit from starting? Can you start hosting painting classes or painting workshops where people can come out and start doing things? With the festivals coming up, that's another thing, festivals. How are you promoting happiness? How are you promoting hope in a time where, as the Atlantic called it, where compassion and with these emotions, when they're becoming radical? What are you doing to promote happiness? What are you doing to promote hope? What are we doing to promote happiness? What are we doing to promote hope? What is within our capacity? Again, whether it's connecting people to resources, we are connecting people to their most immediate needs. Because also I understand that the arts, it's not the conversation. Sometimes people may think that the arts are a luxury and that the arts are limited to a few. But how are we making the arts accessible? How are we making spaces accessible where people can come, learn from one another, be in galleries, and experience going to a gallery and understanding that at least the galleries that I've participated in are welcoming spaces. Which, by the way, everyone, I do have a series coming up, or it's still happening. And it's really how to exhibit your work in galleries as a beginner artist. And I wanted to use this, again, as a tool for people to continue sharing their work, to continue sowing the hope in spaces where we can learn about our stories, where we can still use a space to resist. Now, I did not participate in a current exhibition in my community due to primarily scheduling issues. But I want to give a shout out to my Inter-Latin American Artist Collective. It's called ELAC, composed of 7 artists here in North Carolina. And it's a opportunity for us to stand up against hate and fear. If you have a chance, go check it out. Visit our social media. You can search ELAC and think about how those images are responding to what's happening. Now, it's an example. I don't see a lot of Southern artists or a lot of people in North Carolina, specifically of Latinx descent or Latino descent, using art as a tool. Now, I may be wrong. Maybe my bubble has been limited. I'm a human as well, not claiming that I know everyone. If you're someone who is doing these kinds of things, let me know down there below in North Carolina or in other states, the North, the South, the Midwest, the West Coast, about how we're using the arts as a tool for resistance. And going back to the exhibition, it's a contemporary exhibition that we all are part of, whether we are exhibiting, whether we are talking about that, or an exhibition where we can learn from one another. The paintings are there, the visuals are there for people to look at. We will be having upcoming interview with the artist who participated. I will be more than likely moderating this discussion. And I'm going to be making a panel with the collaboration of the artist. Again, collaboration, keyword, to talk about their paintings. What are their visuals telling, or why are they choosing these visuals to tell people about what they think about what's happening? And it's going to be hopefully a time for dialogue, a time for us to come together. And maybe if you are another artist or someone who's looking to use the art as a tool to resist, maybe that panel can be helpful for you to thinking about your next upcoming exhibition. What, again, goes back to the question, what am I doing in my capacity? I couldn't participate in the exhibition, but I can participate by giving the opportunity to moderate, to collaborate, to make this panel possible. Again, what are we doing? And again, use this video as you best think you can use it. It's an ongoing conversation. Wanted to add my voice to this discussion, national, global discussion, honestly, international discussion. And again, I wish you the very best. Continue to take care of yourselves. Continue to do what it's in your capacity and your ability. Thank you so much for staying and watching this or listening to this. Let's continue to do what we can. Create.